These songs of freedom is all I ever had. Redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs.
Thank you, DJ Sketch. At this time, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I just want to thank you for being here, Dr. Bush, president of Cosumnes River College, one of the founders of Amend, an organization near and dear to our heart. I will let you take it away, but we just wanted to thank you once again for being with us today.
Thank you, Sister Aisha. If it's okay, the panelists, if they able, could turn on their cameras. It's just a little weird for me to talk to myself. You don't have to, but it would make me a little bit more comfortable.
Everybody turn your videos on. Let's join Dr. Bush and community. YouTube chat, give them some love.
Much appreciate that. I cannot think of a better way to be brought in than Redemption Song by Bob Marley. Not only is it probably one of my favorite songs of all time, but it is indeed, I think, appropriate not only to the occasion, but it really does frame, I think, much of my thoughts that I am going to share with you this afternoon. But first, I just want to congratulate MSJC. Today is huge. The Sankofa Committee, thank you for inviting me into this space. Thank you for stepping up and stepping in and stepping out into your Blackness. Now, I know it's not easy in the spaces in which we occupy on a daily basis and what Black folks have to navigate just to maintain their jobs, just to be accepted, just to be seen and heard, validated and affirmed, and you resisting the urge and the pressure to fly underneath the radar in your Blackness just to get along, to go along. I thank you, your ancestors, our ancestors are indeed proud of you today. And big ups to the college administration, Dr. Schultz, your Vice President of Student Services, for seeing the wisdom of the students and the Sankofa Committee for making sure that this event happens today. So thank you for allowing me to be a witness to this. And I think many community colleges will pick up for what it is you're doing. So today you are trendsetters. And so as other community colleges begin to celebrate Juneteenth, Mount San Jacinto College will be able to say that you was the first, at least the first that I'm aware of, and that's what's gonna count right now, to host a type of celebration, and definitely the first to probably do it virtually. So it's safe to say that. I think how I wanna situate my next 7 or 8 minutes. I want to start it and situate myself much in the same way that Malcolm X used to do in many of his speeches, particularly the one that I looked at several times over the course of my life. And he gave a speech in 1964 to a group of young activists in the state of Mississippi. And he used this reoccurring theme that he had used throughout many of his speeches, but particularly the ones that he had the occasion to talk to young people. And he used to hit on this notion of the significance and the importance of defining things for yourself. He would say that we have to think for ourselves, we have to listen for ourselves, we have to act for ourselves, because he fundamentally understood the power that comes with definition. And so I'm gonna pick up on that theme by highlighting the significance or the importance for us to begin to see ourselves and evaluate ourselves from our own cultural understanding and our own cultural lens. Brother Lawson talked about, and he was intentional when he talked about the history to slavery. He said enslaved Africans. That is critical that we understand that. So when we talk about slavery, we talk about who was enslaved, and that was African people who came and was brought and kidnapped into the United States, had their own understanding of who they were. We had our own names. We had our own traditions. We had our own holidays. We understood God. We had our own family structures, and enslavement attempted to disrupt that. And it's important that we put a pin in understanding that we came from a people, and we are a people who built, who developed, who loved, who grew, who owned, who was sovereign, and who was free, and who was free, and who was free, and who was free. And that freedom was disrupted. And our enslavement was not just a physical enslavement. It was an emotional and physical and psychological enslavement that still persists today. See, the power of white supremacy and what we have to understand extends far beyond notions of economic power. It extends beyond the notion of political power. But I submit to you today that the real power that comes through institutionalized racism that shows up in the form of white supremacy is based in the power to define reality and have everyone else adhere to that definition. Again, the ultimate power, and why Malcolm X talked about the power to define, because he understood this chief principle, that ultimate power is to be able to define reality, and everyone else has to adhere to that. So what that means is that white culture norms and values and understanding is the reality in the United States and in other parts of the world. And folks of color and Black people adhere to a reality even when it is counter to their own best interest. That is the power of white supremacy. So to give you an example that is very clear, beauty standards. There's no natural understanding of what good looking is, or what pretty hair is, right? Or what the ideal body type is. But Europeans establish a standard of beauty to reflect how it is that they look. And other people around the world, Black folks in the United States, have adhered to a particular standard of beauty that's not based in their own cultural understanding and values. That's the power to define reality. And not just in beauty standards, it's in history. Even when we know the history that's being taught is a lie, white supremacy and institutionalized racism still upholds the lie. So I know I'm right, because we still teach Christopher Columbus in schools today. There's thousands of examples I can use, but just stop and pause and to think that we know it's a fallacy. We know it's incorrect. We know that it's not even halfway true, let alone it being rooted in fact, that Christopher Columbus did not discover America, but we still adhere to it. How our families are structured and what's considered deficit and nuclear families, all based in white norms and values, and even the holidays that we celebrate. And this is why celebrating Juneteenth has increasing significance, is that we celebrate holidays like 4th of July and Thanksgiving. Let's think about how insidious that is for Black people to go hard, to spend their money, to socialize their children, to celebrate holidays that has no reflection of who it is that we are. In fact, it reinforces our enslavement. It enforces our inferiority, that we can celebrate alone people their independence when we weren't free. And we popping fireworks, we beating folks at the fireworks stands. We're buying up the food at the grocery store to run and celebrate someone else's victory that oppressed us. And so we have to recapture spaces like Juneteenth that affirms who we are, that situates our celebrations and our rituals within the context that we define. So Juneteenth is significant because it brings us back from the idea that the norms that we acknowledge and celebrate takes us away from who we are. It's killing us. White supremacy success proposed that our own deities don't even look like us. And we wonder why our children suffer from low self-esteem and low self-efficacy. We wonder how our students can walk in the classroom and feel like they're not competent and they're not able to master the most complex forms of science and math when our folks invented it. It's because we have adopted someone else's norms. If your God can't look like you and looks like the person who has oppressed you, it should be no surprise that our children are walking around with a lack of confidence and a lack of self-esteem. So what we have to do, quite simply, MSJC community, and this is all of us, is that as this theme suggests that of Sankofa, is that we have to go back. We have to go back to the source. We have to go back to where those enslaved Africans came from, what it is that they believed, what is it that they thought, what was their understanding of God, what was their understanding of family, what is it that they ate? Because in that, in order to be free, we got to know what freedom looks like. And the only look at freedom we have is how we existed prior to colonization and enslavement. And so white supremacy have us running from Africa, running from our enslaved history and cultural traditions that was maintained despite the disruption, and running towards right norms and values because we believe the closer we are to being right, the better position we are. But that's making us more enslaved. We have a rich tradition. Juneteenth is just a small part of that. So let's make a decision today. On this day, Freedom Day, Liberation Day, let's love freedom more than we love the idea of maintaining our jobs. Let's love freedom more than we love the idea of getting paid. Let's love freedom more than the idea of even graduating and earning degrees. All that would come when we are a free people. Let's decolonize our minds. Let's decolonize our homes. Let's decolonize our communities, our churches, and our schools. Simply, y'all, on Juneteenth, let's be free. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Dr. Bush is not playing with us today. Okay, per usual, per usual. Thank you so much for that intro. Oh, not that intro, that speech, that just intro into the future celebration of this holiday. DJ Sketch, I don't know how you were gonna beat Redemption Song, but now is your chance to try. After that, we're gonna hear from our MSJC president, the illustrious Lanisha Powell, followed by our men president, DeAnthony Barney.